Good morning. I should have Jeff every Sunday.
Is this bigger than usual?
Yeah. People are interested in what you're going to say.
Lord have mercy.
So, as usual, I want to remind you to check and make sure that your cell phone is in the off or stun position. Okay. And again, I keep thanking everybody for the behind the scenes stuff. And for those of you who are watching via live stream, welcome. And I'm going to make a few announcements in a moment. And I want you to know that everything that's going to be announced is going to be available live stream during the coming weeks. So if you're out of town, and I know because of analytics that we have a lot of people who watch from other parts of the United States, you can attend these things that we're going to talk about later on live stream. But I hope if you're in person, you can come in person. So as usual, we begin in silence. So take a breath and be here and become aware that right this very moment we are residing in the Sacred Heart of God, and that what St. Augustine called this incomprehensible mystery seeks to find expression through who we are and how we live. And our intent is that everything that happens in this time together not only benefit us, but be for the benefit of all who are. Amen. So, no matter who you are, no matter where you are in your spiritual journey. So today, as you can tell, I have seated next to me Dr. Jeff McDonald, who is the senior pastor of St. Paul's United Methodist Church, and he has no idea what is in store for him. But we're going to get to know Jeff. But beforehand, there are some announcements that I would like to make. This afternoon at 4:30, there is going to be a program called That's Amore, which is a benefit for St. Paul's Choir. And it will be unlike any presentation that you've seen the choir do. If you go to a worship service, this is not a worship service. This is a performance of popular music and sacred music. And there will be ensembles and solos and instrumental pieces and a variety of things. And I hope at 4:30 you can be over there across the plaza in the sanctuary for this event. Also, not this Wednesday, but next Wednesday is the beginning of Lent. And if you're on this side of the chancel, it's a long day because we begin with a breakfast at 7:30. There are services at noon, 5, and 7. I think that's correct. Is that right? Are you preaching all those?
No, some.
Some, okay. There are opportunities for imposition of ashes all through the day. And beginning of Lent and Easter itself, the Lenten season and Easter here at St. Paul's is really spectacular. And those of you who've gone through the season know that that is true. So not this Wednesday, but next Wednesday is beginning of Ash Wednesday. And immediately after that, on Thursday, are the free Lenten concert series that began Thursday at noon. And we have some of the outstanding musical performers around Houston and other places. And all of these will be at noon except for one, which is on 7:30. And at that particular performance, Melissa Edwards, who grew up in this church, is going to be performing. And she's just got wonderful, wonderful voice. And I hope you will come and see her. They'll all be in the sanctuary. Sanctuary at noon on Thursdays. Free, open to everyone. On March the 5th, which is around the corner, Amy Jill Levine will be preaching.
Yes.
Well, on Saturday.
On Saturday,
On Saturday, the 5th, she'll be here for 2 lectures.
In here? In this room?
Yes, in this very room. One at 4:30, and then one, and then there's a dinner, and then a lecture after, and that's part of the Pearson Interfaith Lecture Series. And so, Amy Jill is probably the preeminent New Testament theologian and scholar in the country right now, and she happens to be a Jewish scholar as well. So,
and there's no charge for that either. And there'll be a lecture on Saturday, a meal, another lecture, and then she'll be in the services on Sunday. And I think
she'll be here on Sunday morning. In this, Sunday morning in the Sunday school hour, she'll be here for Ordinary Lifetime.
You know, there are a lot of people who work behind the scenes to make St. Paul's happen, and one of the unsung heroes on the staff here is a woman named Helen Spa. She's spoken here one Sunday about various ecological things that she is interested in and leading the church in. And on the 5th of March, she is, I hate to tell you this because it's competition, but she's starting a Sunday school class that will be short-term, and it's about having Lenten disciplines. So if you have ever heard anybody say something about having a daily spiritual practice, you'll hear more about it. This is a wonderful way to get a hands-on opportunity for some instruction. Helen's a really solid person, and this is going to promise to be really some good stuff. And then also, I want you to know about the fact that coming soon will be the Tallis Scholars. I love the kind of music they do. I've got a Tallis Scholars playlist on my Apple Music, and they will be here thanks to the St. Paul's Music Society, and there's no charge for that either, but it's coming up. And now, the moment you've been waiting for. So, Jeff, you came here in 2019.
Yes.
And it's taken this long for me to persuade you to come and be exposed to these people. So you
I have ducked in and had your cookies and sat in the back some, so I'm familiar with the sort of thing that goes on over here.
So seriously, you came here, we were in the middle of that renovation. My memory is that we occupied the sanctuary and offices for 3 months, and then a little thing called COVID hit. Not been an easy beginning. So tell us, when you were a little boy growing up, where along the way did you decide you wanted to end up here? What's your call story?
So, for a long time, when I was a little kid, I wanted to be a doctor. And I think my mom wanted me to be a doctor because every year at Christmas, I got one of those doctor kits, you know, with the play stethoscope and the candy pills in the bottles. And but then I think when I was in junior high, we moved churches. When I was in elementary school, we were going to the church that my mom grew up in, and it's not far from here. It's over in the East End in the Broadmoor area. It's actually not there now, but my mom had grown up in that church, and the neighborhood had not really changed much. And my 2 brothers and I were the sum total of the children's department in that. And then my parents were the next youngest people in the church, and then there were lots of people my grandparents' ages in the church. And so when I started 6th grade, some friends of my parents were going to a new Lutheran church that was out in the neighborhood near us. And they had hired a youth director, and so we began going there. And I went through confirmation there as a Missouri Synod Lutheran, a dark Lutheran. And I think it was at that time, the youth director was really a great guy, and he took I was kind of a nerdy kid in junior high, and I know you find that hard to believe. But he liked me and was nice to me and included me in things and came to my track meets and I thought he had the greatest job in the world because he took kids to camp and took kids to Astroworld and went to school stuff. I thought, what could be better, And so, I know that sounds odd, but I really do think that was the beginning of my call, was seeing how he interacted with youth, and that had a real impact on me. When I started high school, they had sort of a battle in that church over pews, and we don't have time for that today, but on another day I'll tell you about the battle. And it split the church, and my parents left. Almost all of the families left, and most of them went to kind of a new Methodist church that was in the area, and they had just gotten a new pastor. A young pastor, he and his wife and their 2 young daughters came there. His name was Jim Bankston. And so my high school years were formed with Jim Bankston as our pastor. And we had talked some, and in the summers of college, I came back to Cokesbury Methodist Church and worked as the part-time youth director for Jim. So, and he said, if you're serious about this, you need to go to school. And so he got me hooked up with Centenary, and I went to school at Centenary and got a degree in Christian education with a specialization in youth ministry. And spent several years doing youth work. So I served as, when I graduated from Centenary, I served in Lake Jackson as a youth director, and then up in Lufkin as the youth director there, and that's where Lene and I met, in Lufkin. That's where our daughter Bailey was born. And when Bailey was 1, we moved from Lufkin to Sugar Land, and I became the youth director at Christ United Methodist Church in Sugar Land, and spent just a year as the youth director there. And they had sort of a staff turnover of things, and in the midst of that, there was a guy on the staff parish relations committee who said, maybe Jeff could do our adult ministry stuff and we could get somebody else to do youth. And so I went from being the director of youth ministries to the director of adult ministries. And there is a world of difference when you take adults on a trip. They are always at the bus on time when you tell them to be there. They never get lost at Astroworld. They never, you don't have to eat at McDonald's anymore. You get to eat at better restaurants. And so it was really a step up. But it was in the midst of that I began doing, that church was growing fast, and Tom Pace was the senior pastor there. And because of the growth, he needed help with some congregational care. And so I began doing some of the congregational care ministry that goes along with adult ministries. And he said, well, what I really need is you to be the associate pastor here. And I said, well, there's just one more degree that stands in the way of that. And so I began working on my Master's of Divinity while I was there at Christ Church in Sugar Land, and was appointed as associate pastor there, and we were there 11 years. Wow. And it was a wonderful, wonderful ministry. And then I went off on a silent retreat for a week because I began to feel like my time at Christ Church as an associate was I wanted something different, and so I went away and had a week of quiet and discerning, and came back feeling like I was really called to be senior pastor at church. The first church I went to, there was me and a couple part-time people, so it wasn't like I had this. I was appointed to First United Methodist Church in Trinity, Texas. I don't know if y'all know where Trinity is. It's up on the lake, not far from Huntsville, we moved Bailey, our daughter, the summer between 5th and 6th grade for her. And there were, at Christ Methodist in Sugar Land, she would have been going into confirmation. There would have been 90 to 100 kids in her confirmation class. I mean, it was a big growing suburban church. And then we moved to Trinity, Texas, and Bailey was the confirmation class there. And so we kind of built up the youth group into as many kids as would fit in our van. And So, but I served there for 2 years, and then 2 years in Chandler, Texas, up near Tyler, and then to Nacogdoches, Texas, at First Methodist, and which was a fun time. Lene and I both have degrees from Stephen F. Austin, and so it was a kind of a neat place to go back to. Nacogdoches is not typical East Texas. The university kind of flavors that town differently, makes it a little bit more progressive of a town than other places in East Texas. So we had 5 great years there, and really thought that that's where I would live out my days. But sometimes God and the bishop and the district superintendent have other ideas.
So when I had to go back to the seminary, I mean, I learned about the Free Methodist, and they charge for church pews.
Yes. Yeah.
So that's when you said church split. So that might lead you to my second question, which most of the people here want to know. What's going to happen?
About my daily devotion life.
No. I will get to that. But
if we're going to talk about the Methodist Church, then we're never going to get to my daily devotion.
Well, make
life,
it brief. Tell us what's going to happen.
Let me go get my magic 8-ball or my crystal ball.
Okay.
So,
we can wait.
Well,
We're in.
How much polity do I need to go into?
Not a lot. Just tell us that we're going to be okay.
We're going to be okay. St. Paul's is going to be okay. We're going to keep on being the church that God has called us to be. So I don't know if there's going to be a general conference this year. We may know that next week. But I don't know. There may be some mess at our own annual conference in May. I don't know that for sure. There's going to be some angst in the in-between time. But I know that when all the fighting and arguing and when the mess is over with, we're going to get up, and on Sunday morning, we're going to come here and we're going to have church, and y'all are going to have ordinary life, and people are going to be making sandwiches at EAC, and on Monday, kids are going to be in the preschool, and kids are going to come over to Rutabaga, that whatever mess happens out there, we're going to continue to be the people God has called us to be.
So this class years ago became part of the reconciling congregation movement, and everybody wants the future of the church to be inclusive, and that's what we're hoping.
Yeah,
it will happen.
Yeah. St. Paul's will be.
It is. It will. Be.
Yeah, it is, and it will continue to be.
So, what's the most difficult thing that you've encountered in your ministry that your seminary education did not prepare you for?
Outside of the pandemic?
Nobody could anticipate that.
Yeah.
You know, we were very, very lucky here to be in the position we were technologically and with the people on staff.
Yeah.
It was a hard time.
Yeah.
We were fortunate.
But you know, I think about, and I'm so thankful for Tim and all of his team, and that we put new cameras in the sanctuary, and so you can, if y'all ever watched worship pre-pandemic, it was kind of grainy and like watching when we only had 3 channels here in Houston and on our black and white TVs. But I mean, it's the quality of our broadcasts is really good, and I think while it has been difficult, and I've talked about the difficulty of those days where we preached to the camera and there was nobody out there, and that's just hard to do. But the other side of that is that I get emails all the time from people who are all around the world, who worship with us all around the world, who can continue to come to Bible studies, who continue to come to ordinary life, who continue to do that, weren't able to do that before because if they were traveling or away or something, we weren't doing that technology, but now we are. So I mean, it has been hard, but boy, what a great thing has come from it.
Mm-hmm. So back to the question.
I think I'm going to say a couple things. May I?
Sure.
Okay. To come to St. Paul's is new ministry-wise for me because it's bigger than any place I've served. And so there's things that because we have such an amazing staff, there's things that I had to be much more, not micromanaged, but much more hands-on in the other churches I served. But here, I mean, you know, I'm not worried about who's teaching third grade Sunday school because Kate is amazing and is going to have somebody amazing down there teaching that. Mm-hmm. Lene and I for years were involved in teaching confirmation, and but we have an amazing confirmation program here. So I just show up when Tiffin tells me to, and so there's been I don't want to say it's control. But to kind of let go of some of those things, to let go and know that we have this amazing staff that is taking care and allows me to do other things. I've had more time to spend developing preaching and how that's going to look and kind of the future of the church kind of things. I've had more time to do that because I'm not having to spend as much time on those other. But here's the other thing is that I never thought I would get a call about what's your language rating here at Ordinary Life?
You mean, can you talk dirty?
I mean, are y'all PG? Are you
what?
Are you PG or PG-13?
We are.
Or R? Wow. So I never, in all of my seminary training and my doctoral training and all that, I never thought I would get a call about what to do with the homeless people crapping in the parking lot.
Wow.
You know, so
we got a good homeless ministry.
We do have a good homeless ministry. Yeah.
And it's still a major problem.
Yeah.
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 So I see you came prepared. What is your daily spiritual practice?
So right now, at near the end of January, I did another silent retreat. I was sad that it got cut short, but I went up to Subiaco, Arkansas. There's a Benedictine monastery and abbey there, and and then when Bill did the intro one Sunday morning, not long ago, I mean, it may have been the first Sunday of the year.
I don't remember.
But he talked about Always We Begin Again, which is, and years ago, I read it. In fact, I lost my copy of it, so I had to get another one, and Bill got me one too. But so I was going to this Benedictine monastery, so I've been taking this, and I've been working on this, and so in the mornings, I have a prayer list, prayer journal that I use, and I find it helpful because I can kind of go back and see where things have happened and see, because a lot of times we don't see or we don't notice God at work. But if I pay attention to my prayer list, I see that more. But I'm working on, so every day in the morning after I finish my prayer time, I'm working on the loving kindness meditation that he talks about. And he says, sit quietly, take a few breaths, start by praying for loving kindness for yourself, and then pray that loving kindness comes to others. And there's a little exercise where you put people's names in there. And so every day I've been putting people's names into that praying for kindness piece.
Yeah, if I didn't, I want to tell you the story about how I got that. There was a man here in the church who very popular. His wife was one of those people that goes by the label pillar of the church, Ann Bryce. And she died very suddenly one night, very unexpectedly. They had 2 teenage boys and whatever. And I kept up, this is before the days of email and that sort of thing. I kept up with Robbins during that time. And about a year after Ann's death, we met for lunch. And I asked him, I said, how are you doing? And he said, I'm doing okay. And I said, if you had to attribute one thing to your ability to say I'm doing okay, what would it be? And he said, well, somebody gave me a little book that I've been reading every day for the last year. And I said, I want that book. And he said, I'll give you a copy. I said, if that book is what you say, I'm going to get up from this table after we're done lunch and go get one. He said, well, if you do, get 3. Yeah. Because you'll give 2 of them away. Yeah. And so I did buy 3, went and read it, and then called the publisher and bought 250 copies. I gave one to everybody who was attending class at that time, one to everybody on the staff. And it's a book I read every year.
Yeah.
It's if you ever wonder about having a daily spiritual practice, and some of you know, you've said you buy copies and give them away for weddings, births, deaths. It's a wonderful thing.
Yeah.
That's not the only book you brought.
No, because and then in the evening I'm doing Examine in the evenings too that he talks about in here too. So yeah.
Ignatius Loyola.
Yeah.
It's a good Examine thing. Is good.
I know. I'm trying to follow all the great saints. So.
What's the name of the book again?
Always we begin again. Yeah. The Benedictine way of living. It's a great, I mean, you can read it in about an hour.
But read a page a day.
Yeah.
Don't read the whole thing all
Yeah.
at once. Read a page.
But it's great. It's just great practices. So,
Mhm.
yeah. 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 And so I've been reading Brene Brown lately. Do y'all know Brene Brown? She'd be great to have for our Kerley lecture series because she's local and we wouldn't have to pay travel.
That is what's known as a directive from your boss.
Or what do they call it? What do they call it in the advertising world? Product placement or something like that. So yeah. But she's just great, and mostly I've read her leadership stuff. But just recently, she's come out with Atlas of the Heart, and it's talking about our connections with other people and the importance of those connections. And the last thing I read by her was Dare to Lead, which is really about kind of business world, but it translates over into church leadership as well. But it's about leadership. But Atlas of the Heart is really about each other, our relations with each other. And may I read just a...
Please.
Okay. I think one of my favorite chapters is where she talks about compassion and empathy. And I think it's hitting me in 2022 because I'm seeing such a great need in our culture for compassion and empathy. And so she writes, compassion is fueled by understanding and accepting that we're all made of strength and struggle. No one of us is immune to pain or suffering. And then this is what's good because it's kind of, anyway, she writes, compassion is not a practice. It's not a practice of better than, I can be more compassionate than you are, or you could be more compassionate than I. That's not what it is. It's not, I can fix you, which is just one of my struggles is whenever my daughter calls and says this is this, and I want to fix that. But she doesn't want me to fix it. She just wants me to listen, you know. Sometimes she's 26 and sometimes she does want me to transfer money. But usually it's not about fixing, it's just listening. But then she says, it's a practice based in the beauty and pain of our shared humanity. Mm. The beauty and pain of our shared humanity. It's really who we are as sharing in each other.
You know, one of the things that I've become convinced of out of reading Karen Armstrong and Bishop Tutu, may you rest in peace, Dalai Lama, is that we need this education in precisely that, to see that we're connected with each other. And our country seems more and more and more divided. And what can we do about that?
Well, I wish I knew the fix. And I don't want to be pessimistic or, but I just don't see it getting any better. Mm. I think sort of the game plan is to keep us fearful and afraid of the others, afraid of. I mean, if you watch nearly any political commercials that are on right now, Lene and I went and voted on Friday, and I've never seen such a barrage of campaign workers. We voted right over at the West Gray Service Center, and it was like running the gauntlet to go in and vote. Yeah. And I tell you, it was nice though, because now you don't have to kind of declare in front of everybody if the primary, if you're going to the Republican side or the Democrat side. So in the old days you had to pick one line or the other. Now you only have to declare it to the poll worker that's there, and you really just push the button on the screen. I guess they know when they hand you the ballots, but it's just we have become so divided. And I don't know, Bill, it may be listening is going to be the key. That we just need to shut up and listen sometimes.
What do you need from us? How can the members of St. Paul support your ministry in a way that will be helpful? Besides money.
Oh, I wouldn't. I have to tell you, I'm so impressed by Ordinary Life. It's an amazing group, and the Ordinary Women and the work that they've done over at Boynton Chapel. And I know I can call on folks if we were to need something, but you all are thoughtful and hardworking and caring and compassionate and empathetic. Smart geniuses. So filters down from the leader. I think if a few weeks ago on the other side of the plaza, I preached from 1 Corinthians 13, and we've sort of romanticized that scripture because we read it at so many weddings. Love is patient, love is kind, love is not boasting, love doesn't keep a record of wrongs. But when Paul wrote that scripture, he wasn't writing it to a couple that's getting married. He was writing it to a church that was divided, that was arguing and fighting. And here 2,000 years later, we still haven't gotten over that. And I think that love that Paul wrote about, that agape love. Have y'all talked about agape love? So
I need to.
Yeah.
That's another directive?
Yeah. That's what kindness, that's what, it's what's being kind, And I think about when I come into work in the mornings and, I park on the other side of Fannin, and the 6 benches have 6 people sleeping on them. And I can look out the window of my office around 11 and literally see hundreds of people headed over to the EAC.
To be fed.
They make 350, 400 sandwiches, sack lunches a day, and they run out. But when I think about it in those terms, I think, God, there's what in the world can I do about this?
The need seems so great.
The need seems so great, but we've got a homeless guy that lives somewhere in our neighborhood. I think he lives behind. We live over off of Westheimer between Shepherd and Kirby, and there's a art gallery over there, and we think maybe he lives behind there. But Lene always has a $5 bill for him. We always have some food for him. We had a coat and some gloves for him. When the last really cold spell we had, we said, "Hey, do you have some place to be tonight?" Because we're going to get him over to Star of Hope or to what's the other one? Search. And he said, "No, I've got a place." And so we've been there 2.5 years now, and we see him really regularly. At first, he wouldn't speak to us, and now he'll talk a little bit. And so maybe if all of us found him,
I had a woman come see me for spiritual direction this week. She's not a member of this church. And when she came in the office, she said, I just gave my sweatshirt away. I said, what? When? So when I was walking in, I encountered somebody who said, have you got an extra sweatshirt? And I did. And so that's how it happens. That's how it happens. So Jeff, years ago, I got addicted to watching a program called Inside the Actor's Studio. And then later I found out that we got plenty of time. And later I found out that Stephen Colbert has a questionnaire. And I've kind of put these two together, added a few things of my own. And I want to know if you're willing to be known. Because at the end of this, you're probably going to know yourself in a way that you didn't even know you knew.
So in Brene Brown, Dare to Lead book, she says, we cannot lead if we are not vulnerable.
Okay.
So I'm going to pass on your exercise.
I don't think you can do that.
Oh,
So here we go.
okay.
What's your favorite word?
I'm gonna say I'm really trying for kindness to be my favorite word right now.
Okay.
I'm working hard to practice it. Some days it's easier than others. I struggle on 59 with that word.
What's your least favorite word?
I can't say it here.
It's an R-rated class. No, we can't bleep it out either. Okay. All right.
I really can't stand the F word.
Okay. Got it. What sound or noise do you like?
We have these wind chimes out in the backyard, and I really like the wind chimes when I can hear the chimes. That means it's quiet enough to hear those. And so.
What sound or noise do you hate?
We have a lot of sirens that come down Fannin.
Mm.
A lot of sirens come down Fannin.
What profession other than your own would you like to do?
There was a chapter in my life when I wanted to teach history. And in fact, I got a master's degree in history thinking that I'd like to teach history at a university somewhere. So.
What profession other than your own would you least like to do?
And do I get to think about it for a little bit? Or
Sure, we can think. My least favorite noise is leaf blower.
Okay. I think the least favorite thing that I would or could do would be working at the nail salon during pedicures.
I wouldn't have guessed that in a thousand years.
I do not touch anyone's, nor do I really want anybody touching my feet.
Okay. What is the best sandwich?
At Barnaby's, they have this pot roast grilled cheese that's really good. It's a really good sandwich. But would you consider a hamburger a sandwich, though,
Yeah.
too? Because
Oh, yeah.
I really love a good hamburger,
Okay.
too.
What is the one thing? Is Lene here?
No.
No, she's not here. She can watch this later, or you can confess to her. What is the one thing that you own that you should throw out? Are you a hoarder?
I wouldn't say I'm a hoarder. I have a lot of books. I probably have too many books.
Not possible.
Well, I know, but they're heavy to move. I'm going to say I have this comfortable sweatshirt that is really nice that I maybe should give to a homeless person. But
So, what is the favorite thing for you to do with your free time? I'm sure you have a lot.
Well, I mean, I really, I work on balance, and I really try to keep Sabbath and keep day off. Friday's my day off, and I really, unless there's something. Lene's very understanding if there's a funeral or a hospital call or something like that. She's understanding of that. But for the most part, I leave Friday alone. And we used to do yard work when well, I got to tell you, I like doing yard work because you can see progress. I mean, when you get the leaves raked up, you can tell you've done something. When you get the yard mowed, you can tell you've done something. Sometimes in church work, you don't get to see a lot of progress. And so yard work was very therapeutic. So on Friday, when we lived in Nacogdoches, we had a pretty big yard, and we had magnolia trees. I don't know what people were thinking. And so we would get up in the morning, and we'd do the yard work, and it'd take several hours. And now our yard work takes about 10 minutes. We don't have very much to mow, and but so we'll find a new place to go run on Friday mornings. There's lots of trails and lots of good places. And
You're a runner.
And go have breakfast afterwards. Yeah. And
When
I really that's good time for us.
So when do you write your sermons?
I write all through the week, and I concretize on Thursday.
So before you came to St. Paul's, were you a lectionary preacher?
I was not.
Has it been a big adjustment?
It has been, but it's been a good adjustment.
I hate the lectionary.
Yeah.
Both.
Yeah.
It's a problem.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Today is not, today's scripture's tough. Last week was tough. You know, everybody likes Matthew's Beatitudes. Blessed are the poor in spirit. We like blessed are the poor in spirit, but that's not what Luke said. Yeah. And today Luke says, love your enemies and be kind to people and forgive people. And Jesus says, and Luke's recording it. So, yeah.
What is the scariest animal?
Snakes.
Snakes. You don't like snakes.
I do not, when we go to the zoo, I do not go in the reptile house.
Okay.
Because if I can't see them, where are they? They're out after me. So,
Yeah. Apples or oranges?
apples. Gotta peel oranges. As I've gotten older, I don't like to work for my food much anymore. I love boiled shrimp, or it's crawfish season now, but a lot of work.
Have you ever asked anyone for their autograph?
I have some autographs.
Okay.
I have Jimmy Buffett's autograph. I have Tina Turner's autograph.
Really?
Mm-hmm. I have Ann Richards. I have Ann Richards. I have a picture with Ann Richards and I and her autograph. Yeah.
What's your favorite movie?
Can I just pick a bunch of scenes from different
Sure.
ones? Gosh. Like a meaningful or a worthless movie?
Favorite movie? It can be absolutely worthless.
I love that. Remember that airplane movie?
Oh, I love that movie.
And all those lines that are just, yeah.
So I tell you a story that I vowed I would never tell. I promised I would never tell. But now that I've started down this path, I can't quit. When this gorgeous woman and I were dating, I just bought a VCR. I was not here at this church. I was doing something else. Somebody called me and said, "We want you to come do a retreat for us. What do you charge?" And I had just seen an ad in the Wall Street Journal for a VCR on the back page. There's this camera thing and I named that price. I said, "That's what I charge," and I bought a VCR. And then I went to you remember when this is before the days of Blockbuster? They had independent stores where you could go, and I went and rented that movie. And Siri and I were in our courtship, and I got her over to my house and cooked a meal. And then we watched Airplane and just laughed and laughed and laughed. And after it was over, she was still married. She married me after that. She turned to me and said, "Don't you ever tell anybody." That's one of the great movies of all time. My respect for you just went way up.
Thanks. Lene and I's first date movie was Silence of the Lambs. And we still got married, so yeah.
Wow. What living person do you most admire?
Living. I would have liked to have said Desmond Tutu.
Who?
Desmond Tutu.
That's a good choice.
I know, but I was a little late. I like Adam Hamilton a lot because he's working so hard to try to keep the church the church.
Tell us more. They don't know who he is.
Adam Hamilton is he's the pastor of United Methodist Church of the Resurrection in Kansas City. It's the largest United Methodist church in the country. And he's really using his place of leadership to try to heal the divides in the church and keep us together.
But we're not going to stay together.
We are not going to stay together.
That's sad.
It is very sad. Yeah.
So this is backing up some. After the divorce, as it's being called, will the United Methodist Church rewrite its Book of Discipline?
Yes. Well, it will remove things that are currently there that are harmful.
Okay. Somebody asked me a question. Do all denominations have a Book of Discipline?
No.
No. Just the Methodists?
Well, I mean, there's others that have some sort of polity to them. If you think about how the Methodist Church developed, we developed along the lines of the development of the United States. So our polity looks a lot like the United States. I mean, we've got a general conference that meets every 4 years that is people who are elected to serve as representatives of the churches, and they meet every 4 years and they work on the law of the church. We have a judicial council that interprets the law of the church. So we developed right along the lines that the United States developed. But in 1968, we became the United Methodist Church. We came together with the United Evangelical Brethren. All Methodists are not United Methodists. There's Free Methodist still. There's the AME Church and the CME Church that chose not to become united. And then in 1972, those words were added to the Book of Discipline that one of the first things that happens in the split will remove that incompatible language.
So, what is your most cherished possession? Are you going to hate me after this?
No. I mean, I want to, because I know sort of the intellectual level of this group. And so even to mention the Airplane movie was dangerous. And so,
it endeared you to me.
Yeah. I think I'm going to say my family. I mean, I really love my family. And
Bailey is in Austin.
Bailey lives in Austin. She's 26 and lives in Austin and has a fairly steady boyfriend that we're thinking could be the one. Yeah. So, and we like him, so it would be okay if he were the one. So,
if you had to listen to one song for the rest of your life,
Really? Not even one genre, but just one song? Oh,
I'll tell you what it is for me. Lo, he comes with clouds descending. It's a hymn, you know it?
yeah.
I love that hymn. Sing, love it, love it, love it. But
I think since you set the tone, I think I would go with Love Divine, All Loves Excelling.
I knew that was your favorite hymn. But
Yeah.
are you like a rock guy or a country and western guy or?
Well, I mean, I told you who autographs I have. So,
Oh, okay.
I mean, and I listen. I have a fairly eclectic playlist. I mean, there's Lyle Lovett's on there, Nancy Griffith's on there, the Vampire Banshees are on there. I mean, Bailey has introduced us to some music that we like, but I mean, so it's a pretty big and open playlist.
So the last question. If heaven exists, which I'm sure you believe it does, what would you like to hear God say to you when you arrive at the pearly gates?
So, if you noticed, Miss Lectionary Guy, for the last 3 Sundays, Paul in the 15th chapter of 1 Corinthians, thank you, has been talking about the resurrection and the body and what is sown in blah, blah, and so what that's going to look like and all. So for the past 3 Sundays, there have been 12 scripture readings, right? 3 of them from Corinthians have talked about heaven or the afterlife or the resurrection or whatever, while the other 9 have focused more on how we live our lives today. Jesus talked much more about how we live in the here and now, how we try to bring heaven here on earth. So that's where I think that's where our emphasis ought to be. There was a time that I would have thought heaven would have been kind of golf course like, but I've not really played much golf lately. I think there is that, and I think what it is unity with God, unity with others. Maybe a chance to ask God some questions that I have about some things.
You heard the story of the 2 golfers who were nearing the end of life, and one said to the other, I wonder if there's golf in heaven. And the other said, I don't know, but if one of us dies, come back and tell the other. So sure enough, one of them died, and a few days after the funeral, his buddy who was left here heard this voice. It said, John, yeah, it's me. I'm contacting you. And I got to tell you, yes, there's golf in heaven. Oh, it's great. And your tea time is 8 o'clock in the morning. So, well, thank you for doing this. Time for us to go.
It is. I do want to, let me just kind of catch you up though. I mean, just give you a quick what's happening in United Methodism, because I flippantly sort of talked about it some, but that later this week, we're hoping that the Commission on General Conference decides to have a General Conference. We don't know if that's going to be the case. General Conference 2020 is scheduled for August of 2022. We've gotten to a place now, though, where they're worried about visas. It can take 6 months to get visas from some countries. So that's an issue. But I'm afraid that if we don't have General Conference, that the Texas Conference, of which we're a part, is going to vote to leave the United Methodist Church. And if that's the case, then St. Paul's is going to take a vote to stay in the United Methodist Church. We may not be in the Texas Conference. We may end up in the North Texas Conference or something, but
That's around the corner.
that's around the corner.
And it's all going to be okay.
It is, because there's going to be angst and there's going to be weeping and gnashing of teeth. But as we said, after all that voting and all that mess, we're going to get up and we're going to come to church and we're going to come to ordinary life and we're going to come to Bible study and we're going to keep doing the things God wants us to do.
So I want you to know that two things. I am not open to your asking me these questions.
Are you open to receiving a paycheck?
Oh, yeah. That was good. That was good. And you're welcome to come back here anytime and update us on what's going on. I know we got staff changes happening, but most important for me, and I think for Jeff too, to keep at our level of awareness is that starting next week is the beginning of the Lenten season. It's a really rich time here at St. Paul's. And for those of you who are watching online, I think everything that we announced is going to be available online,
Yeah.
even this afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
The 4:30, that's Amare, will be online, right?
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. So remember, no matter who you are, no matter where you are in your spiritual journey, not only you're welcome here, but no matter what happens, no matter where you go, remember this: you carry precious cargo, so watch your step. I'll see you here next Sunday.
Amen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That was fun.